Hey everybody, welcome back to Guys Not Laboratory. I'm Jesus Velasquez.
I'm Jordan Zacharias.
And welcome to another episode of Flicks or Treats. Today we're going to do a new segment called Movies We've Never Seen, a Halloween edition. And so these are going to be movies that have been out since forever, whether it's the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, whenever. Maybe classics, but movies that we have never seen that probably we should have seen in our life, especially
Especially by now.
By now, yeah.
Yeah.
So to give you an example of just a general idea.
We've been around a while.
We're gonna pick specific movies that have to do with like Halloween or horror movies or whatever. But in general, it would be a movie like, so I've never seen, believe it or not, I've never seen Braveheart, which is a movie everyone's probably should have seen by now.
Shame on you,
but
sir.
I've never seen it, so that's something for another episode later on. But today we're gonna focus on
Halloween theme
movies. So one of the movies that I have never seen is An American Werewolf in London.
Wow.
And
that's a classic.
I've definitely seen clips. You know, I've seen like the top 10 movie lists and everything about the movies. I've seen the clips of certain parts of when he's transforming into a werewolf. But from beginning to end,
Landis' classic. Yeah.
I've never seen it.
It's a really good one. It's one that I don't know if it makes sense, but it's one of those movies. I haven't watched it a lot of times, but I like it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's very well done. It's very well directed. The actors are great. The special effects are unbelievable. The werewolf, the main werewolf transformation scene of David in his apartment is incredible because it's in broad daylight. They wanted to show you every detail instead of trying to hide it in shadows and in dark like they'd been doing for years with movies.
Yeah.
They wanted to put the transition right in your face in a well-lit apartment. Camera angles everywhere, different, and the effects are all obviously practical. This is way before anything CG as far as that goes.
Yeah. So
it's practical and it's breathtakingly good. But yeah, it's one I understand why you haven't probably gotten into it because it's slow in the beginning.
Yes.
So for you being a little bit more ADD as far as like, and not in an insulting way, but like when you're watching a movie, I know you like things that are more actiony because it grabs your attention more. So the point with that one is that it starts off slow, but it's in the middle part. I mean, there's that weird dream sequence with like the Nazis.
Yeah.
So
I've seen that like on like, YouTube or whatever, or like the most like scary movie moments or whatever. So I've definitely seen that. And I've been like, oh my gosh. And I didn't know.
It's a crazy movie.
So it kind of ruined the idea that I was like, oh, it's a dream, but
right. But it's a movie we should watch. I'll watch it with you. I'll show it to you. But it's one that you have to be in the right mindset for, I think. But if you know you're going into a slower movie that's a classic, it's kind of like going back to like an older Universal monster movie. You have to be in the right mindset. It's I think this one comes in probably closer to 2 hours. I don't think it's a tight hour and a half one. I think it's a little bit longer than that. If it's not, it feels like it drags a little bit here and there. But the pacing is all built up to, again, that transformation scene. The ending is wonderful. Again, the werewolf, itself, when you see it, is just amazing looking.
And the thing about this is like Landis, like I like. Well, one of my favorite movies is a movie that he's done, The Blues Brothers.
Yeah.
So it's like,
He's made some great
the Blues
films.
Brothers is early '80s. Or it's like around the same time as American Werewolf in London. So I'm like, I don't think, not that I haven't given it a shot because I don't like it, but I think I haven't given it a shot because I just haven't been like.
I think it's one you just haven't gotten around to yet.
Yeah. So maybe this year, definitely we'll check it out.
Yeah, for sure.
Because obviously there's like I said, the YouTube clips or whatever that I've seen, I'm like, oh, that looks pretty sweet. But like you're right, I think I've seen a couple minutes in the beginning. I'm like, yeah. So but yeah, I will check it out. So now turning the tables to you, what is a movie that you've never seen? Halloween edition.
Believe it or not, I have never seen Rocky Horror Picture Show all the way through from start to finish. I have seen a lot of the parts. I have heard the songs all the way, like the entire soundtrack a bunch of times every Halloween, but I don't think I've seen it from start to finish ever.
Okay, so I've seen this one, believe it or not. I like musicals.
And it's got a huge cult following.
Oh, it's a huge cult following. Tim Curry, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he does an amazing job. It is
Meatloaf.
Yeah, Meatloaf. Susan Sarandon, the guy that
I was gonna say you'd know better than me.
Yeah. So it's a great movie, like, but it's so weird. Like it's like I've seen it and I'm like, what? But I think that's what makes it amazing because it's got great musical number. Obviously, everyone knows the Time Warp. That's like a Halloween classic. We talked about that in the song ones. But like, there's a lot of other songs that the one that Meatloaf sings, his Golden Boy.
Oh yeah.
There's the sweet transvestite.
Yeah, Transylvania.
Transylvania, yeah. So it's definitely a weird movie because it turns into these like, well, I don't want to spoil it for you, but yeah, okay. So now I have to really choose my words wisely because I don't want to spoil it for you.
Okay.
But it is definitely a movie where you watch it from beginning, and it starts that kind of like idea of like, okay, these two people get lost and they go to Frankenfurter's castle or whatever, and then there's like all these weird things. And you're like, is this like normal? Like they're going into song and dance, but I think it's part of like the campiness of it and everything. It's kind of like the meta-ness of the whole thing.
As you mean, as in it's all self-aware. It's all very
self-aware, tongue-in-cheek.
Like, yeah.
So then what ends up happening is like they're trying to get out of there, but then there's all these things happening. Then like Meatloaf shows up and tries to rescue like his girlfriend or something, and then it just takes like a complete like 180 weird turn. And you're like, what? Like, where is this going on? And then there's like a bunch of like, because Frankenfurter's like a mad scientist.
Okay.
So he's he's creating these things. So then it's kind of almost like
he's Dr. Robotnik.
Kind of like not like Oompa Loompas, but kind of in the sense like it's almost like Willy Wonka,
like the tall man and the little people.
Yeah, it's almost like
Phantasm.
It's almost like Willy Wonka in a sense, but not. It's really okay. You have to watch it. It's really hard to explain. Okay. And I don't think there's anyone out there.
I've gathered that from what I've seen of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this has got to be hard to explain.
I don't think there's a lot of things that are there because it's like it's called Rocky Horror Picture Show, and it kind of is that in the beginning, and it's kind of like, okay, it's creepy. He's like obviously in drag, but he's kind of like this mad scientist, whatever. And all these weird things are kind of happening, but then it gets very sci-fi-ish, and you're like, what? And so like first half is kind of like, it's not creepy because it's very like it's a musical and it's campy and it's like you said tongue-in-cheek, so it's not creepy, but it's got the Halloween horror elements to it.
Right.
And then like act 3 of the movie, it gets very sci-fi-ish, and I'm like, what? Like it gets very weird.
Okay.
And you're like, interesting.
See, and that actually makes me happy though because this is one I've actually never heard anyone spoil it for me.
Okay, good.
So I have no idea what happens.
Because I was about to spoil it, and I'm like, wait a second, you haven't seen it.
Hey, thanks
so
for not.
I'm not going to spoil it. But that's the best interpretation of the movie I could give you without spoiling it. And I don't know if anyone else could do a better job. I'm sure there's other people, fanatics, the cult followings that probably can.
No, you've said enough that it piques my interest.
Yeah.
I definitely am going to watch it.
But I mean, what piques your it's off the wall. It's totally out there, but the musical numbers definitely keep you entertained and everything.
Yeah,
like you said, having ADD, it's like I said, it's weird, but the music in itself just keeps you there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Rocky Horror Picture Show is a movie, ironically, that I've seen that you haven't. But yeah,
you might have to watch this one this year.
Yeah, it's not everyone's cup of tea. Like I said, it's got a cult following, so it's definitely not for everybody, and people might not like it. But I definitely get the draw of it for Halloween or in general of why people like it.
Okay, sorry. Final question about Rocky Horror is there any other movie you can compare it to, or any other type of story you could compare it to, or even another movie, like another movie's vibe you can compare it to or feel?
Think of like Little Shop of Horrors.
Okay.
Because that's a musical.
Yep.
But okay, so Little Shop of Horrors you've seen, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, whether you've seen the original one or the remake,
I've seen both. It's been a while.
The remake's from '80s, but yeah, that was good. But Little Shop of Horrors, it's weird, it's crazy, but it's got like that continuous, story arc. You know, Seymour gets a plant. He has to feed the plant. The plant wants blood, so now he has to feed him humans, and blah 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 blah.
Right.
Seymour goes out what's the plant's name? I can't remember. Seymour is the guy. But anyway, so he has to feed the plant, and then he has to feed people. Then he has to kill people to feed the plant, and it follows that story arc. It might get weird. There's weird parts in it where like the dentist and everything, but it follows that story arc. So now imagine that, and then imagine like in Act 3 of Little Shop of Horrors, it just goes into like a completely different like story.
Okay.
And you're like, what? So now it's like.
Kind of pulls the rug out.
So it's like now the plant is like, I don't know what to say because I don't want to spoil.
No, that's right. That's right.
So it's just it's not anything like that ruins the movie, or it's not like a completely different movie in itself. It's just like it just goes a different route.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's hard. Yeah, I don't know what other movie I could explain it like. Yeah, I don't know, but it is a fun movie, definitely. Tim Curry does an amazing job with this. People have, reprised that role in like remakes or reboots, but they don't even come close to what he does. His character, his costume, his singing. I mean, Tim Curry is the man. So,
well, and obviously they're not doing it because of COVID this year, but this is still one of those movies, I believe, in Los Angeles and cities all over the country where each year they still have groups, like they still have showings of it around October, right?
Oh yeah.
And people get together in the theaters and they all sing and they all interact with parts of the movie and stuff like that too, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. People get dressed. People get dressed as the characters in Little Shop.
That actually sounds fun. Sounds cool.
And whatchamacallit, Temecula, there's like a discount movie theater in Temecula. They always show horror picture show up there, and they always have like a horror picture show like thing every Halloween.
Okay.
So
okay, that's cool.
But yeah, it's definitely, like I said, it's a weird movie. It's definitely, I know why it has a cult following, but yeah, you're just gonna have to check it out, and
just have to watch it this year.
Yeah. So yeah, watch horror picture show, and I'll watch Werewolf in London, which I'm kind of excited to, because with Landis and Blues Brothers, I was like, you know what, I did like Blues Brothers. Let me just check it out.
I was gonna say maybe we could even do dual commentaries for while we're introducing each other to the new movies.
That's right.
That'd be fun.
So, all right. Well, that's what I got. So, 2 movies we haven't seen: Rocky Horror and Werewolf in London. And we're gonna check them out today. We're gonna clear them off our queue. So, all right, guys. We'll see you on the next one.